Hi, I'm Nick Palmachado.
And I'm Thomas Hunt.
And this is the Bad News Network. President Biden has continued the Trump policy of being hard on Iran, except now Democrats like this policy and many Republicans seem to hate it. It's almost like these people don't have a belief system of their own. So what really happened? President Biden wanted to issue a proportionate response to the attack in Erbil that injured 5 Americans and killed 1 Filipino contractor in Iraq. So he identified Iranian-backed militias that were moving munitions into Syria and attacked, killing 22 total pieces of crap. Shockingly, Iranian media corroborated these numbers, but they did leave out the pieces of crap part. I've got no issue with this response, just as I had no issue with the response when Trump took out Soleimani. What continuously amuses me, however, is the changing point of view of politicians and the media on the matter. I read 2 articles in major publications that actually asked the question, what are Iranian militias doing in Iraq? And then another publication that said, when Iranians say that US policy remains the same no matter who is president, this is what they're talking about. Folks, when Bush identified Iran as part of an axis of evil, this is what he was talking about. They are actively trying to kill us or get other people to kill us. We've been fighting a proxy war with Iran in Iraq and Afghanistan for years. In many ways, the entire war on terror has been a proxy war with Iran. The IEDs that forced us to improve our vehicles came from Iran or Iran-sponsored militias. The training, equipment, and motivation for many of these militias and attacks came from Iran. 6 months ago, Trump was being too hard on Iran. Now Iran needs to be taught a lesson. It's just so disingenuous. I know you hear this message from me a lot, but it's shocking to me. Not that these people switch their opinions completely depending on which party is executing the plan, because I'm used to that by now. But that we keep allowing them to do it and even parrot their opinions, and we don't hold them or us accountable. I'm just glad that the Democratic leaders have finally come around to the notion that businesses need to be able to open up again and we can't keep the economy indefinitely closed. I wonder what's changed.
BNN's heartwarming hero of the week is TikToker Chris Wieland. Chris said he was scrolling through TikTok when he saw how bad things were in Texas. He decided to take it upon himself to start a fundraiser for those who didn't have food or power. Within a few hours, Chris had raised $7,000. He then drove 12 hours from Tennessee to Texas so he could personally buy individuals food and supplies to survive. Thanks, Chris. Now you've gone above and beyond what was required of you, you should go visit Cancun, as it is lovely this time of year.
Now more on crack news. A Seattle woman found a 1 kilo or 2.2 pound bag of cocaine stuffed inside a crocheting kit. The woman claims she purchased the kit from a thrift shop and didn't notice that the yarn weighed 2 pounds. She said the yarn was giving off a weird stench, which caused her only then to investigate. This, of course, led her to find a manila folder filled with cocaine. I feel like a manila folder is way too big to hide in a yarn kit, but maybe that's just me. She then called the Seattle Police Department, best known for losing the city of Seattle to protesters in June. Reportedly, a similar incident happened in Arizona when parents bought their daughter a stuffed doll and found 5,000 pills of fentanyl inside. The parents only clued into what had happened when they found their daughter laying face down in the dining room, questioning her place in the universe. Officials have now issued a warning to thrift shop enthusiasts to inspect all open and used items before buying them. Thrift stores have now started a promotional deal: buy any 2 ketchup-stained oversized t-shirts and get a kilo of meth on us.
I love golf as much as the next guy, so not at all. I play occasionally, like once every 2 or 3 years or something, and I also don't watch anything golf related at all, and don't plan to start. I say this because I may be a little uneducated in what I'm about to say, so if I'm wrong, don't attack me. If you drive at a speed relatively greater than the speed limit, or really fast around a tight curve, you probably will tip your car. Then again, not an expert, but luckily, Tiger Woods tried it out for us. And it went exactly as expected. This is what subject matter experts exist for, people. Jokes aside, Woods suffered severe injuries to both his legs, shattering one ankle, and open fractures to his right leg. Ouch. Authorities say he couldn't stand by himself, but he was conscious and he wasn't inebriated. But investigations are ongoing. We really do feel bad about what happened, but, come on, man.
And what we are considering to be the beginning of the end of the human race, a US-based art group has put a paintball gun on Boston Dynamics' walking robot. You know, the one that the makers deliberately kicked around and pushed downstairs and closed doors on, and numerous other things that would make a robot angry if it ever gained, sentience. The one with the weird ball feet. The one that sometimes has a claw on its back and learned how to open doors. Is this ringing any bells? The art group Mischief, but spelled MSCHF, like the super postmodern art nerds that they are, argues that Spot the Robot Dog or similar models will eventually be used in the military, hence the paintball gun. I can't exactly say that they are wrong, and I can totally see robots of doom being used in armies, but why turn it into art? Can you even consider it art? This is a really profound piece reflecting on the state of the human condition. It's also worth noting that Boston Dynamics' original funding came from the military, and they are trying their best to shut down the project, but I'm sure it's because they don't want their learning robot learning how to shoot weapons. Who knows? But hey, go ahead and give robots guns. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Last week, someone decided to add a little extra frosting to Frosted Flakes. But instead of delicious confectionery sugar, they decided to use something a little stronger, cocaine. They're drugs! Custom agents in Cincinnati seized 44 pounds of cocaine-dusted Frosted Flakes last week. The entire haul had a street value of almost $3 million, which is by far the most expensive cereal out there. The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol stated that nearly 4,000 pounds of drugs are confiscated from ports all across the U.S. every day. So this is 44 pounds, that's kind of more of a blip on the yearly total, which shows you how well the war on drugs is really going at this point. At first, many people thought this was a marketing technique from Kellogg's to help people start their morning with a little more pep in their step. But Kellogg's confirmed it would not have given away that many drugs for that cheap. Since then, Raisin Bran has also tried adding drugs to their cereal, but people are still concerned that it tastes like shit and is meant for old people. Cereal isn't the first food item that smugglers have tried to hide drugs in. Last year, Italian police found cocaine in individual coffee beans. That would be one hell of a cup of coffee. Even though these cocaine cornflakes will never make it to the market for you to add to your perfectly balanced breakfast, other off-brand cereals are trying their hand at drug-infused cereals. There's Marshmallow Meth Mounds, Heroin, Hoops, Captain Ketamine Crunch, and my personal favorite, Apple Acid Drops.
As you all know, one of the top priorities of the Biden administration is to tackle the issue of climate change. And this week, they took a huge step in it by bringing in a notable personality to help reach people and motivate them to research climate change. Who did they choose? Maybe Smokey the Bear, after all, he's a local favorite. Or Captain Planet, the guy whose only superpower was cleaning up the world. The Gorilla Glue Girl? The Walmart Yodel Kid? Nope. All of those would have been much better choices, but instead, the Biden administration went with 14-year-old Anna Hersey, the UK's top table tennis player. I know you may be asking yourself, how does a 14-year-old table tennis player help bring awareness to climate change? Which is a great question, because I have no fucking idea. Now, I'm not here to take anything away from Anna. Being one of the top table tennis players in the world at age 14 is one hell of an accomplishment, and when she gets to college, it's probably going to be huge for her. And to have the leading party of another country reach out to help solve a crisis must feel pretty awesome. You motivate me to learn how to perfect my backhand and slam one of those tiny white balls through my opponent. However, not so much as motivated to start protesting about climate change. Even though I don't necessarily understand the choice to ask someone with no attachment to climate change to be a spokesperson for climate change, Anna is still pretty cool. She was the youngest athlete ever to compete at the Australian Commonwealth Games when she was 11 years old. So even though she might not know that much about climate change, I would still rather listen to her than Greta Thunberg, who, frankly, is just annoying.
Last week, the family of Angelo Quinto filed wrongful death lawsuit against the Antioch Police Department from the incident that occurred at their home in December. Angelo, who is a veteran of the United States Navy, was battling depression, anxiety, and paranoia, died after police were called to the house when he was going through an episode. The police were called by his sister, who had hoped that the presence of the police would help calm her brother down. When the police arrived, Angelo's mother had already gotten him to start calming down and had started to control the situation. But police still decided to take control of Angelo and cuff him. After cuffing him and placing him on the floor, an officer used what is being described as a George Floyd technique, placing their knee on the back of Angelo's neck and holding it there for 5 minutes. While this officer had a knee on Angelo's neck, Angelo pleaded with the police, "Please, let me live. Please don't kill me." When paramedics arrived on the scene, Angelo was unconscious and was eventually pronounced dead at the hospital. Angelo's family said that the police didn't try to understand what was going on with Angelo's mental health and immediately cuffed him and put him on the ground. Most of the details from this case have come from Angelo's family, who is in incredible pain right now, so naturally the emotional rhetoric has been turned against the police. With Angelo being a Filipino immigrant, many people are accusing the police of using excessive force on a person of color. One thing that may have helped in this situation is if the police had been wearing body cameras, but of course, that wasn't the case. With this little information, it's hard for us at BNN to point the finger and say that this person or that person is wrong. Regardless, this situation is a true tragedy. Mental health issues are extremely prominent in veterans who have left the military. These men and women have been trained to be stronger than most human beings, and sometimes talking about these issues that most humans go through is harder for them. We have to do our best to be an ear and a shoulder or hand when needed. Our prayers go out to Angelo's family, and we hope that they can get the answers that they are looking for. In slightly happier news, the second oldest person on the planet, Sister Andre, is about to celebrate her 117th birthday after kicking COVID's ass. Hope does exist after all.
On Wednesday, the world got a sneak peek of John Wick 4. The producers went with something a little different this round, casting Lady Gaga as the lead role. Dragged into turmoil as her 2 luxury French bulldogs were stolen by low-life criminals in the Hollywood underground crime syndicate, Lady Gaga's true past as an undercover Polish spy is brought back to life as she embarks on a blood-filled odyssey to get back Koji and Gustav, who are her dogs, not her Polish children, to be clear. It looks like this is one bad romance. Pew, pew, pew. Just kidding. That actually really happened. LAPD responded to a call about an armed robbery Wednesday night. It turned out to be Lady Gaga's dog walker who had been shot and liquidated of the 2 dogs. An unidentified white male in a sweatshirt ran up and shot the dog walker before escaping in a white van. Now, I'm no criminal mastermind, but I'm going to say the planning of the heist of 2 French bulldogs is a pretty low-level criminal move. But maybe I'm wrong. Lady Gaga has offered a $500,000 reward for the return of the dogs with no questions asked. What? Someone is going to be asking questions. I know you want your dogs back, but your dog walker got shot. The real question here is, did this criminal think he was stealing 2 regular dogs and just randomly hit the jackpot by stealing the 2 most expensive dogs out there? Or was there an elaborate plot that took weeks of planning and organization and one of those big walls with all the yarn on it and a dark underground lair to steal the 2 things that mean the most to the star-studded diva? Either way, I would be careful because we all know what happens when people fuck with dogs.
Don't worry guys, Hasbro just did it. In one fell swoop, they ended transphobia once and for all. Well, sort of. Not really. The kids' toy giant has decided to change up one of their most successful toys in order to conform with the modern day expectations, or are just doing their best not to get canceled by the Karens of 2021. Mr. and Mrs. Potato Heads are dropping their gender titles and will just be called Potato Heads. This is great. I remember as a kid, I always wanted to put a dress on Mr. Potato Head, but his massive tots would always be showing. Hasbro made this decision looking at the changing family structures of modern day homes and the children they market to. Today, with the growing diversity within family structures, the debate is that kids may get confused when they are only allowed to play with a male or a female titled character. You know, since male potatoes have huge dicks and lady potatoes have vaginas, it gets confusing. Back when Mr. Potato Head came out in 1951, you bought a package of plastic parts, and you supplied the potato yourself. Can we please go back to this? Here's your potato, sweetheart. Wow, Daddy, it's a boy or a girl. It's a fucking potato. I'm glad this toy is out there now so kids can choose what they want their potato head to be. Before this, it was impossible to take the Mr. Potato Head clothes and put them on Mrs. Potato Head body, but now the options are limitless. If we want to be really specific though, potatoes reproduce asexually through budding. Thanks, Snapple. So instead of Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head, can we just get one that looks like a Quasimodo with an extra head? I'm just saying, if we're gonna send it, let's go full send.
And finally, in Florida man news. Apparently when you turn 80, you stop giving a duck. Or a fuck. 83-year-old Floridian Victor Esquera shot his neighbor over an escalating fight about ducks and geese. Apparently old Vic didn't like the fact that his neighbor Jose Gamborita liked to feed the local ducks and geese close to their houses. Victor stated that he ducking hated the geese and they were a huge ducking problem to the entire world, which I have to agree with. Unfortunately for Jose, he was set upon from the beginning since old retired men only have two hobbies: complaining about how other people live their lives and feeding random wild animals for fun. Jose was luckily only shot in the arm. Man, if only he would have ducked. You guys should try and get along. You know what they say about birds of the same feather. This seems like a case of foul play. Shooting your neighbor might make for a awkward situation.
No more bird puns. That one was reaching.
I'm sorry, I can't stop. They're just quacking me up. After shooting Jose, Victor realized that he ducked up, so he dropped the gun and returned to his home while a witness called the police. When paramedics arrived, they took a gander at the wound and determined that Jose would be okay. I'm glad Jose is going to be okay, and I suggest next time, instead of taking your anger out on each other, take aim at the geese. They have teeth on their tongues. That's not normal. Ugh. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Thomas Hunt.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and let's face it, Tom Hunt was quacking me up today. As always, you can get 25% off at rangerup.com when you use the code BNN. Have a great weekend.